All righty, we'll begin our meeting tonight. You want to call the roll? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. I'm sorry, I'm lost here.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Here.
Mr. Lockwood, Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Here. Before we begin our hearing tonight, our counselor, Mr. Hoy Hodges, will tell you what you have to do in order to get your request approved or denied. Mr. Hodges?
Mr. Chairman, we do need to elect officers. I don't know what's on the agenda.
I've got it on here. We'll do that at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Can we do it then?
So
Okay.
in that case, I would ask that the joint zoning ordinance of Bowling Green, Warren County be made a part of the record along with the comprehensive plan and any elements which are in effect tonight. Staff report needs to be made a part of the record along with any exhibits that are attached to those reports. They should also be included. And then also we need to swear in tonight and recognize her qualifications as zoning administrators, Rachel Hurt, Amy Scott, and Jenny Willoughby.
Do y'all swear to tell the truth, ladies? Yes, sir. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
And the first thing we have on the agenda tonight is a request for a variance. And there's certain requirements and findings that the board must make in order for you to prevail on your requested variance. The board must find that the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, that it will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, that it will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of requirements of the zoning regulations. The other three matters are all requests for conditional use permits. And those requirements are set forth in the zoning ordinance itself, specifically section 3.9.5. The board must find that the requested conditional use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed, that the use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services, that the use will not constitute a nuisance, and that it adequately addresses the review criteria in section 3.9.4, and that it otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And that would include any specific use standards that may apply to the conditional use. Now, I mentioned the review criteria in section 3.9.4. There's actually 9 elements that are listed, one of which is compatibility. And the ordinance specifically states that the applicant, who has the burden of proof, must adequately address the review criteria as it may apply to the requested use. Again, compatibility is part of that review criteria. So if you're an applicant, be sure and address that matter. In order to prevail tonight, it's going to require a majority vote of those present. A pass vote has no force or effect. In the event you're dissatisfied with the decision tonight, you have 30 days to file an appeal, and that will go directly to the Warren Circuit Court.
Thanks, sir. Our first request tonight, Sky Properties LLC, care of Kerry Jones, has filed an application for a variance from the required 25-foot incompatible use setback on the property located at 203 Cherry Way. And this property is zoned RM-3, townhouse multifamily residential. Ms. Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Davenport. Give me 1 second, and we'll get this switched over to the PowerPoint, and we'll get going. Thank you. All right. We had a pre-application meeting back in March for the property at 203 Cherry Way. And here's the current aerial view. And the current zoning is RM3. And the current land use is vacant. And I will leave the variance exhibit up here for your reference. And the applicants are requesting a variance of 8 feet from the required 25-foot incompatible land use setback when located adjacent to a single-family residential district or use to allow for a 3-unit multifamily building to be built on the property. The variance request, if you're looking at the exhibit, would specifically be located on the right-hand side here. So that is what is in reference this evening. Looking at the zoning ordinance reference, section 454C8 requires an additional setback for multifamily development when located adjacent to a single-family use. We have the variance findings for your reference on page 1, and then it runs on to page 2. And then you'll see about midway down page 2, the information that was provided on the application from the applicant to help and address those findings. And the board should consider if the applicants have adequately addressed those findings. We've included a couple of points for your consideration on page 1. I'll get to those in just a minute. I will make a note of section 375 of the zoning ordinance. If you choose to approve the variance, the staff would recommend a condition that a revised plat be submitted for review, approval, and recordation in order to consolidate the properties before a building permit is issued. And with that, I'll jump back to page 1 and review our points to consider. The first is that the board should consider if the proposed variance will alter the character of the vicinity. A majority of the existing residential structures in this section of Cherry Way are single-family detached homes, and you can see that on the land use map here. Those are the properties shown in yellow. The board should consider if there are special circumstances that do not apply to land in the vicinity or same zone, and if the strict applications of the regulations would create an unnecessary hardship on the applicant, and if the applicant has provided sufficient evidence to justify granting the variance. Next, the board should further consider if there are any extraordinary or exceptional topographical conditions that would deprive the property owner of the reasonable use of the land. The applicant could build a single-family residence or a duplex on the property without applying for a variance. And last, the board should consider if the variance will allow for an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations, as the increased setback outlined in the zoning ordinance applies to all instances of multifamily development adjacent to a single-family residential use. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the board or the staff?
I have a question.
The properties in that area, are they all R1?
They're zoned multifamily, but the land use...
I'm saying the land use is R1, obviously.
The land uses, here's the land use map on the screen, so you can see the property here outlined in red. So the properties across the street, and then to the west are single family. There is one multifamily structure here, and then a couple of multifamily properties in red further to the west. And then you've got some commercial properties that are fronting Old Morgantown Road.
Right, but the vast majority of the use in the area is R1.
Is single
Is that correct?
family.
Single family. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, at least in the block. You can see the yellow single family properties here and then down here.
Lloyd, you have a question?
Yes, I do. It's 2 lots, correct?
Currently, it's 2 lots. Or, well, it's 1 lot, and I think it might be a portion of an older platted lot. Let me see if it's,
Looks like it.
Could that have been part of the?
is that right, Jace? Yeah. So it's 1 full lot and then part of another lot that was from an old plat to, it would have been deeded off just and not followed the plat. Today, you couldn't do that, but since this is an older part of town, it's not uncommon to kind of have remnants of lots that still exist.
Well, what happens to the small portion of the lot next to it?
They would have to be consolidated, correct?
Yeah, so if, in any instance, if you wanted to build in the area that's outlined in red, you wouldn't be able to cross that property line. You'd have to replat it. Even if you wanted to just build 1 single-family home or duplex, you'd have to consolidate the properties.
Any other questions from the board? I've got one. A lot of times when we have properties in this general vicinity, y'all mentioned it's a hindrance or helpful to the workforce development housing problem. Would this type of unit be an asset for the workforce? Is that what you call workforce housing issues that you have?
Yeah, I think go ahead.
I see the write-ups where you say if we approve a air nub or something, we may be taking a property away from the workforce housing thing. Would this area and this type of facility not be an asset for the workforce housing?
Yeah, and they're proposing to build long-term housing. This wouldn't be a short-term rental.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the considerations we've included on conditional use permits for short-term rentals, just because that's going to take away from the housing stock for
So there could
long-term
be a
use.
need for this type of housing in that area.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And that's what they're planning, is long-term housing, yeah.
Any other questions from the board or the staff? Are the applicants here? Does the board have any questions of the applicants? Any opposition to this request? We have any opposition? Okay, motion, please.
Make a motion that we approve the request for variance at 203 Cherry Way, docket number 2024-V-13, with the conditions as outlined in the staff report. A variance of 8 feet from the required 25-foot incompatible land use setback when adjacent to a single-family residential district or use. Testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that granting this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and indeed may improve welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations.
Okay. Motion, Dr.
It's
Fitz.
compatible with the neighborhood.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes?
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Thanks for coming down. Have a good evening. Our next request tonight, Savvy Cuts Barbershop applicant and Matthew Mellencamp, owner, have filed an application for a conditional use permit for a home occupation, more specifically a barbershop located on the property at 736 Hydro Ponsville Road. And this property is zoned AG agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting for the property on Hydro Ponsville Road in June of this year. There's the current aerial of the property. The current zoning of the property is ag. Current land use is also agriculture. And then there's their site plan, which can be found on page 8 of your all's packets. They are requesting a CUP to operate a home occupation, more specifically a barber shop. The zoning ordinance reference can be found in the middle of page 1, Article 5, Section 5.1 of the use table. A conditional use permit is required to operate a home occupation on property zoned ag. Looking over, moving from page 1 to page 2, to the zoning ordinance reference, and then more specifically the specific use standards for home occupations there on the top of page 2. The conditions provided by the applicant: number 1, hours of operation will be by appointment only from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Number 2, will be limited to 2 stations with a maximum of 2 clients or 1 family unit at a time. Number 3, no more than 2 client vehicles on the property at a time. And number 4, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Conditional use permit findings are on the bottom of page 2, moving over to page 3 for your all's reference. And so looking back to page 1 with some points to consider, the board should consider if the proposed use is appropriate in the ag zone. The board should also consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area and existing adjacent properties. And the board should finally consider if the proposed use will result in increased traffic congestion or constitute a nuisance in the area. And that's all that I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Very good. Any questions from the board or the staff? Board questions? Applicants are here? Applicants are here. Does the board have any questions of the applicants? All right. Anyone opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-23 for a home occupation located at 736 Hydro Ponsville Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report. Testimony presented in the public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it's proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance. And if the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And this proposal is compatible with the neighborhood.
Okay.
Second?
Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes?
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Good luck to you. Our next request tonight, Gregory and Jennifer Cannon have filed an application for a conditional use permit for agritourism on property located at 0 Nash Road, approximately 334 feet north of GN Glasscock Road. Now, this property is zoned AG agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on September 12th of 2023 for the property that you outlined. The current zoning is agriculture, the current land use is agriculture, and the applicants did supply a site plan that can be found on page 8 of your packets for reference. And again, the applicants are requesting a CUP for an agritourism use, more specifically for an event venue space, FFA functions, photography sessions, weddings, work retreats, holiday events, catered events, growing and selling seasonal vegetables, flowers, Christmas trees, and eggs. Below that is the zoning ordinance reference. In Article 5, Section 5.1, the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate in agritourism use on properties owned ag. There is the zoning ordinance reference at the bottom of the page for your review. Looking over at the bottom of page 2 and into page 3 are the list of conditions that the applicants have supplied. Number 1, the barn located on the property may be used to host weddings, showers, FFA functions, photography sessions, work-related retreats, holiday events, and catered events. Number 2, the property will also be used for growing and selling seasonal ornamental peppers, flowers, vegetables, Christmas trees, and poultry for egg resale. Number 3, hours of operation, Sunday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Number 4, agritourism uses shall be limited to a maximum of 120 people on the property. Number 5, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Number 6, the public entrance to the property shall be located on Nashville Road and has been coordinated with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Number 7, the outdoor wedding location will not have music, bands, or other similar noise-generating activity. And then below that, if this application is approved, the staff suggests a condition. As you see on your site plan, there are a couple of proposed lots that the applicants are looking to subdivide and create 2 lots. So this condition is relating to that. During the plating process, an egress easement shall be established on proposed Lot 2 for the benefit of the proposed Lot 3, which you can see the agritourism uses are on Lot 3. So that is the staff suggested condition. Below that are the conditional use permit findings for your reference. Looking back at page 1 to the points to consider, the board should consider if the proposed uses are appropriate in the ag zone and if they are compatible with the single-family residential uses that are adjacent to the property. The board should consider if an event venue will result in increased traffic congestion in the area. The board should consider if the proposed uses in hours of operation will be disturbing to present surrounding land uses due to noise or other general nuisance. And the last point to consider, applicants have submitted a condition eliminating music, bands, or other noise-generating activity from the proposed outdoor wedding location. The board should consider the likelihood that the outdoor wedding location would not generate any type of noise, as staff is unaware of any similar outdoor venue in the community that does not incorporate a musical component. Other similar applications with an outdoor component have satisfied the required setback or incorporated a concurrent variance application requesting relief from the 250-foot requirement from any residential district use or structure. So that is all we have for a staff report.
Okay.
Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the staff of the board? The board have any questions of the staff? Are the applicants here? Applicants are here. Does the board have any questions of the applicants? Any questions of the applicants? Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? All right, motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-24 for agritourism located at 0 Nashville Road. When I went to look for it, it was almost like looking for a 0 Nashville Road. With the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the uses are not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare in the zone which they propose. The uses will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services. Uses will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, and that this otherwise meets the requirement of the zoning ordinance. And you did say that, let's see, we needed to include the condition that during the planning process, an ingress and egress easement shall be established on proposed lot 2 for the benefit of proposed lot 3. And I feel like that this is compatible with the area of the county.
Okay.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved. It's kind of hard to turn it down when you got Cheney's right next door to you and a ballpark and a high school that can do all the same things you're wanting to do right across the street. I mean, yeah, how do we say no? You know? But thank you all. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Our next request tonight, Green River Gun Club, Inc., care of Stephen Summers, has filed an application for a conditional use permit for recreation and entertainment, more specifically a sportsman's farm and firearm range on the property located at 1718 Price's Chapel Road. This property is owned AG Agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on May the 14th for the properties that you highlighted. The current zoning is agriculture, current land use is agriculture, and the applicants did supply a site plan, and that can be found on page 7. The applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a recreation and entertainment use, more specifically a sportsman farm and firearm range. A majority of the use is legal non-conforming, except for an existing pavilion and trap range located near the property entrance. The applicants are also wishing to expand the use to include a bathroom facility on the property, and therefore must come into compliance with the zoning ordinance. With that being said, the zoning ordinance reference is there for your review. Article 5, Section 5.1 Use Table. A conditional use permit is required to operate a sportsman farm and firearm range on property zoned agriculture. Below that is the zoning ordinance reference. Looking over at page 2, under the conditions, the applicant supplied 3. Days and hours of operation are 7 days a week from sunrise to 10 p.m. Maximum number of people on the property at a time for special events shall be 500. And if the existing fence on the property is ever altered or replaced, then the fence will be brought into compliance with the zoning ordinance requirements for a sportsman's farm and firearm range. Below that are the conditional use permit findings. Looking back at page 1 to the points to consider, there are none pending any public hearing and testimony this evening. That's all we have for a staff report. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the staff, from the board of the staff? Get that right. Question of the staff and the board?
Have they made any allowances for noise?
They've not included anything that would be, maybe the applicants speak if they have any noise canceling things on the property, they might can speak to that. It's pretty heavily wooded, I believe, and tucked back in there.
That's been out there for what, 30 or 40 years?
For a while, I believe.
Been there
It's
long.
enough that it's considered legal non-conforming.
Okay.
A part of it, yeah.
Any other questions from the board or the staff? Are the applicants here? Somebody representing the applicants? You want to come up?
Good evening, Chair Davenport, members of the board. I'm Chris Davenport. Office is 921 College Street, and I swear to tell the truth for you here today.
Thank you, sir.
I'm here with President of the club, Mr. Stephen Summers. Let me give you just a little bit of brief history here, and then I'm going to highlight why I think this should pass tonight briefly, and then if there is opposition, you can hear from them. Maybe I'll respond to that. Legally non-conforming is the staff's way of saying this use is basically grandfathered in. Mr. Summers tells me that almost 30 years, Chair Davenport, I think it's been 29. 1995 is when the club began operating on this site. It has operated continuously since that time. It is a nonprofit organization that owns the property and operates the gun club. What has caused the application tonight is their desire to put a bathroom out there. And when they wanted a bathroom, that requires some permits. And when they wanted the permits, the staff noticed that there was another trap range put in, I think in 2017. So what happened is the facility was operating. There was no conditional use permit needed. It was allowed as a use of right under agriculture. Then at some point the ordinance changed, and you needed a CUP. You needed conditional use. And then that second range, the trap range, was put in. They didn't know it at the time. So the trap range should have had a CUP arguably in 2017. So we're trying to clean that up, along with put the bathroom in. Mr. Summers tells me that they have a history of 0 code enforcement violations, other types of complaints that he's aware of. He's the president of the gun club. So with that history in mind, what I would suggest to you is the staff has told you on page 1 of your staff report that all of the various use criteria for this CUP that are set out in section 5.2, point 4, point E, point 5, point C, point 1, a lot of points.
Thank you.
All of those criteria are satisfied here, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why there was nothing to discuss subject to this hearing. So those are all satisfied. And then lastly, I would just argue that under Article 3.94, that those criteria have been satisfied really by the fact that the facility has been operating for 29 years without complaints and those sorts of things. So I think it shows it's compatible with that extremely wooded area and the ag properties in that area.
Do you know, does this adjoin the landfill we just approved a couple of months ago?
It's close to it.
Mr. Summers is shaking his head affirmatively.
Yes, it's right next to us, so I thought we just approved the adjoining property as for landfill last month. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's one of those things that in 30 years ago, no doubt, I think it was an ideal location for this use. It was allowed in ag without a CUP. I would argue that the location remains good, and they could continue to operate the one range without a CUP. They couldn't put a bathroom in, and I think that's for the benefit of everybody to put the bathroom in, and I don't think the other range materially changes anything.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board of the, were you finished? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but if I have any questions, I'm happy to
Any questions from the
answer.
board of the applicants?
What about 500 people driving into that little lane?
Let me explain what that's for. That's a little bit like Easter for your church. They only have one big event a year. Each time of year they host the 4-H, and they have a program there for 4-H attendees. That's the only event of any considerable size they have. I will tell you, Mr. Summers tells me during the summer they have 4-H kids there weekly, but not at a big event like that. So they host like one big annual 4-H event. That's the only time that they have people really of considerable size on the property. Staff had asked that I cap that at something, and that's the number we put in there knowing it would be safe. That event doesn't approach that number.
Any other questions from the?
So it would it'd be reasonable for us to limit this stipulate was 500 people to a single event yearly. Would that be all right?
I'm very sorry, Dr. Fitz, I didn't understand.
So right now, that what the condition says is we won't have, I think it says we won't have more than 500 for a big event. Is
Well,
that,
it was a very large number.
Yeah.
And the road is a lane.
Maximum number. It says maximum number. on the property for special events.
So what Dr. Fitz is asking is, would the club be interested in capping the number of special events?
Well, I have one, and I, quite frankly, never want to take another one off. It's all we can do. It's a once a year fundraiser for 4-H kids. That's
So we
all
could
I
do you a favor by saying you only have one event, then that way everybody got an excuse not to do
One
it.
special event per year that shall not exceed 500 per occupants.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because it just seems like a sort of a large, I mean,
Number.
if you just left that wide open the way it is, the way we're stating it, why, you could have an event every weekend,
So just,
which he doesn't want, but I mean, you don't,
He's gonna express concern how we enforce that probably. So
Well, enforcing it's actually probably easier than you might think, but the county has an ordinance that allows up to 4 events a year. So if you're going to cap it, I would recommend the number 4 to match the couny ordinance.
okay, I'll be fine.
Okay.
And we're agreeable to that, are we not?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just, it didn't seem like I wanted unlimited.
Well, and that's not their intent either, Dr. Fitz. Yeah.
All right, any other questions from the board of the applicants? Thank you. Any opposition to this request? Yes. We'll need to get your full name and address and swear you in, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Davenport.
Yeah.
My name is George William Reeder, R-E-E-D-E-R. I reside at 50694 Highway 31, Lapine, Oregon.
You swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
I'm not sure that this would be opposition, and I don't have the counsel with me. My question is very simple. My cousin, Edward Robinson, owns the property, and he was notified shortly before I arrived today that the property was going to be put up in the Board of Adjustments. My question is if this is approved, would he lose title to the land?
No.
That's all I
That
have.
has nothing to do with it, no.
That's all I have, then, Your Honor. Thank you.
No problem, sure. Any other opposition or questions? I was correct in that answer, wasn't I? I assumed it was right, but sometimes...
Doesn't have anything to do with ownership.
I didn't think anything to do with it. I just want to make sure I was correct. All righty. Motion, please.
Making motion that we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-25 for recreation and entertainment use, more specifically a sportsman's farm and fireman range located at 1718 Price's Chapel Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report, with one addition that the number of events with up to 500 persons per event will be capped at 4 per year. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it's proposed. The use will not contribute to an overburden of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance. And in fact, it has been proven for many years in this regard, that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and that it is a compatible use in agricultural area.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. It's been years since I've been out that way. When I went out there the other day, I wasn't for sure I was at the right place because the entrance looked so much nicer. I thought am I at the right place here? It does look a lot better, though. Good luck to you. Thank you all for coming down. Appreciate it. All righty. Old business? Oh, I not approved the minutes. Did I miss that? Well, I'm sorry. Any changes or corrections to the last month's minutes? If none, a motion to accept, please.
Make a motion to accept.
Okay. Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Mr. Howell.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Ms. Price, Ms. Atkinson,
Pass.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. I must have had a President Biden moment there. I just overlooked that altogether. didn't I? All right, now then, any old business? All right, new business? We do have to elect officers tonight. We haven't done it for a while, so nominations for, what do we call them? Officers or?
Officer.
Officers? Chair, yeah. We need to elect a secretary, a vice chairman, and a chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mike Davenport for chair, Dr. Fitz for vice chair, and Ms. Atkinson for secretary.
Okay. Before we get a second, so we can do this without having to have 3 different roll calls on 3 different positions, I was going to say, just to keep us clean, though, is there any other nominations for secretary or any nominations for assistant chairman or co-chair or any other nominations for chairman? If there are no other nominations, then I think we can just go on this one thing, right? Yeah.
So be it.
All right. Mr. Howe moved they cease. All righty, call the roll.
Okay. Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. Thank you all. I had a good meeting tonight. This was nice and sweet. We like these kind.
Thank
Y'all
you
did a
all for
good
taking
job.
the responsibilities of your position.
Oh, we,
At first blush, it didn't look like it was going to be that way.
Oh, we're adjourned. Let me say, yeah, get off the,